I feel like every episode at this point just starts out with me wanting to just complain. And I feel like that's a relatable spot right now. So, keeping everything simple, let's dive into this a little bit. Welcome back to the Keeping Everything Simple podcast. I'm your host and fellow student, Michael Klukas, and on this show, we boil down complicated topics into simple and actionable tips. There has been an issue that I have constantly been struggling with for the past, year here, and it really is with blame. And I think distinctly blame that I give myself that is either unwarranted or incorrectly warranted. Let me explain. So one of the big issues that I have been running into, especially in my day-to-day life, my work, and in my marriage, is assuming the worst in when I'm getting advice or critiqued. Now, that is something that I need to specifically work on because it is very problematic for me to assume that, because I might be messing something up or I might be misunderstanding something, that everyone's just assuming the worst of me, which I do not believe is the case. However, the problem that I run into multiple times is that is my default assumption, and it does not do me any favors. It does not do my wife any favors. It doesn't do my employer any favors, but ultimately, at the end of the day, it just makes anything that I want to tell myself negative. It puts it in a negative light and negative filter, and you guys might experience something similar to this, where you might hear or someone might give you a critique on one area, and then with that, you just assume that, oh, okay, I guess I'm just doing bad in everything, or you might take it and just run with it in the complete opposite direction, which I have been guilty of multiple times. So it leads us to then want to complain. It leads especially me to want to complain and just assume that, okay, everything needs to be triple, quadruple checked to the point where I'm not making any decisions on my own, or I need to be hesitant before doing anything or taking initiative in any aspect. And it gets very tiring, not just for myself, but also, and this is distinctly in my marriage, it gets very tiring for my wife, in which I will second guess everything. I will be hesitant on everything, and I won't actively be a good partner, a good husband, because I'm so in my own head, blaming myself, building up these narratives that oftentimes are incorrect. And it is so frustrating because I don't believe my wife sees me as a failure. I don't believe that I am a failure or that any critique is a criticism against me as an individual and as a whole. Like, there's habits that I have that are bad habits that need to be revised and outgrown. And I just hadn't realized it until recently. But the narrative that was built up for myself was, oh, well, because I have this habit and this is part of who I am, then obviously there's something wrong with me. And that's just completely the wrong message and the wrong story. The emphasis that I want to have is, oh, I have this bad habit. I need to grow and change from that. And I need to do something differently. And here's something that I've been told directly that I can do to make things better. And that's not easy to, I think, reconcile with. It's not easy to just kind of accept. But I think it's definitely important because I don't believe I'm the only one that does this. If you are someone that has a hard time taking criticism well, or you're having a hard time, or you're having like these kind of little spikes of anxiety whenever, like, say you get an email from like your boss that says, we need to talk. And it really is just a, hey, I need to follow up on this project real quick. Where you at with it? But you just assume instantly the worst. Or if your wife says, hey, or your partner, I need you to work on this. This is something that I'm seeing. It's kind of a blind spot. Would you mind making some adjustments? And if you take it and run with it in the opposite direction, say, oh, obviously then I must be failing entirely, which doesn't benefit them. It makes it so that way you're missing the point. It's becoming about you. And I've done this so many times in which I have taken a problem, dissected it down in the completely wrong way, and have made it entirely about myself, and then haven't fixed the problem. And it's aggravating. It's really aggravating, especially when I see myself do it now and I either don't catch it until like 10 minutes later, or I do catch it, but at that point, I just feel too guilty to say anything, even though that would help resolve any conflict, any situation that may have arose from me in the first place misunderstanding. So I want you guys to learn from my mistakes here. Understand what true like insult is versus just feeling insulted. Like someone might be calling you stupid, and that in itself is an insult. Someone might say, oh, hey, I noticed that you did this part of the project wrong, or you didn't bring this topic up. Could you do that next time? They're just helping you notice a blind spot. They're not calling you stupid, but you might feel insulted. Recognize the difference. Understand that there is a difference. It's not in our best interest to assume the worst in everyone else when they are trying to help us, when they are trying to help us be better. And that's my encouragement to you guys, where understand what those differences feel like and understand how you react to them. Because if you are able to distinctly say, okay, no, I just feel insulted right now, but what they did and what they gave me was an overall legitimate critique, and I need to take it and I need to work with it. I need to make sure that I repeat it back and I understand what they're saying and they understand me, but I need to make sure that this is what I'm working with. It's a legitimate critique versus, just being insulted. And then also the idea of that kind of blame ownership. Let yourself understand what is truly something you can take ownership for, something that you can own up to, and what's something that you are trying to take ownership for that you may not need to. And those are very different situations. And that's going to be independent for each of us. It's going to be different for each of us because we're all going to have like our own little critiques in it that we're going to make in our own head. But just understand what that looks like. So between the two things of what is actually an insult versus what is feeling insulted, what actually needs to take what you actually need to own up to versus what you are feeling like you need to take ownership for. Because those are not always the same thing. And I am working on that and trying to recognize that myself. And so I encourage you guys to also work on recognize that for yourself too. But with that, if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure that you click that subscribe button, leave a comment down below, and ring that notification bell so you know every time I upload a new episode. If you listen to us on Spotify or another podcast app of choice, make sure that you leave us a follow and give us a 5-star rating. It really helps out the show, and I greatly appreciate it. But with that, keeping everything simple, have an amazing day, you amazing people. I'll see you all next time. Go out there and do great things.